Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be back. So let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, on all platforms on social media, from the statistics of what we saw yesterday, Julius Maada, the president of ECOWAS right now and the sitting president of Syria alone, Dr. Julius Maada, like they call him, I think this man is one of the most hated presidents in Africa. In my own opinion, I don't know who is more hated between Julius Maada and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of Nigeria. Based on his visit to Burkina Faso, instead of getting a lot of praise, he has been getting a lot of sticks and hits and kicks because people are saying that was a pretentious visit. In my own opinion, I don't think I even know Julius Maada the way people know him. Maybe I've not really done a lot of research on him. A lot of people are saying, like, even his visit to the AES states might be him setting the stage for something that looks like an incursion or something that ECOWAS has no good intention for the AES states. They said if he's really, really intentional about helping with his capacity as the ECOWAS president, he should be thinking, after the whole thing he said on the stage in Ouagadougou, he should be thinking of mobilizing forces, like getting minimum of like 100 soldiers from each of the ECOWAS states and sending them to the Sahel to help solve the security issues in the Sahel. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have about 56 African states. So if you get like 100, you're having about 5,000 plus, which I think, Africa as a whole could mobilize more troops than this. And I know that there are some very, very good African states that will be ready to contribute. So this is what people are saying. They said, Mr. Julius Maada, if you are listening, and if your representatives are listening, they said, you can do that in your capacity as the ECOWAS president. They said the AES states should be able to provide the financial and the logistical capabilities to be able to back up these troops. But they are saying this is what you should be doing in your own right as the ECOWAS president to help. Because if you say that even though there is AES bloc, which is well respectable on the international stage, they said if you say you are brothers, this is what you should be doing to contribute to the betterment of West Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think about this? Do you think it is possible? Do you think it is something within the capacity of Julius Maada that he can command? Ladies and gentlemen, we'll wait and see if his promises in the Sahel yesterday was just an empty promise or it's just him posturing around to show his his capacity and his capability as the president of ECOWAS, just making fake promises. Like people say that it is something that we've seen from so many African presidents. You can give us your opinion on what you think about his visit to Burkina Faso. But so far so good on Twitter, on Instagram, every platform out there. President Julius Maada I mean, his visit to Burkina Faso actually even infuriated a lot of people, other than help, bring him to a very good light, in my own opinion. Now, let's go to today's information. In preparation for the military parade in Mali, we are beginning to see a lot of military capability. The Malians have been, they've started practicing their airborne parade.
Ivoirian, you kill me saying this one now, I'm a Ramsey. Wale, Pilar, Blendon Ramsey, Ivoirian. On your winner, the Malian Metai.
Aí baixo foi tendo ni efene ni vende sera tawobe
awani vende sera para
ça va flâner ni nyoko orelo.
To show their capacity, we've seen a lot of fighter jets in motion, moving in different parts of Bamako, and we've seen their helicopters. The air vectors have been on display so far, practicing for the parade. But when I look at the air vectors this guys possess, and I'm beginning to ask myself a lot of questions mentally. Why not deploy this entire capability against the terrorists? And when I look at the troops that were marching in Bamako, that they were practicing and preparing for this parade, I just ask myself a question. You got this capacity. Why not declare a full war against the terrorists? Why not, invade every possible place that is invadable and just, crush the terrorists to the limit,
The security situation is relatively calm. However, it is important to understand that the region is marked by a concerning pattern of deliberate and targeted attacks, which are being carried out by armed terrorist groups operating on the country's major roadways. And in particular, it's worth noting that these attacks have specifically targeted high-value assets such as diesel and gasoline tankers, as well as commercial vehicles that are known to belong to certain transport companies. Regarding the recent attacks on the convoy in particular, and I can confirm it was the convoy, what transpired the other day on the Kaysandare to Sandare Diamond stretch is that there were indeed very significant material losses reported. Specifically, the fuel tankers were set ablaze, and full assessments are still currently ongoing to determine the complete extent of the situation. And in immediate response to this hostile attack, our armed forces fought back quite vigorously, employing a combination of both ground troops and supportive aerial raids. Our assets managed to neutralize and destroy several terrorist hideouts and gatherings of armed terrorist groups in the area. As you are well aware, the enemy we are facing operates in a manner that is both invisible and highly unpredictable. We are therefore facing what is truly an asymmetrical threat, and consequently, our forces are currently making tremendous efforts to secure these vital major supply routes, all of which ultimately lead toward the city of Bamako. This is an adversary whose methods are unconventional, making the situation exceptionally complex for us to manage. The enemies blend in with the population, particularly in rural areas and also in large urban centers. What happened provides us with the opportunity to draw important lessons and to gather the essential feedback that is required in order to genuinely and effectively respond to all kinds of situations. In reference to the comprehensive security of transportation convoys along all designated routes, whether they are operating within the capital city of Bamako or throughout the country's administrative regions, we wish to formally and confidently reassure the general population, as well as all commercial and economic operators, that our dedicated armed forces are at this very moment actively engaged in securing all of the nation's roadways for safe and unimpeded travel. Comprehensive measures have already been taken to ensure the complete safety and security along all relevant sections. I want to personally reassure the general population and especially the economic operators who have truly invested their valuable resources to meet the essential needs of the people. It's not easy at the moment, but we want to reassure them that we will always be by their side. The nation's armed forces are currently available, and rest assured, they will always be available to provide full support to them. This is to guarantee and ensure the complete security and protection of their valuable investments, whether on the critical roadways or at industrial sites and facilities as well.
The Malian armed forces are conducting a large-scale security operation. The armed forces are strengthening their presence on the roadways connecting the regions to Bamako. The objective is clear: to protect the population, secure their property, and fight against the terrorist armed groups operating in these areas.
And some of them live within the enclaves where the citizens too live. That's why it is very difficult for the authorities to sort of do a total, destruction on them, because if they do, definitely, the terrorists have a way of using the citizens or the civilians as a human shield. But, I think it's just a matter of time. If you look at the way Mali continues to develop its capabilities, after the ambush on the convoys, the petroleum convoys that were coming from Guinea, from Senegal, the Malians have actually beefed up security along that route. They've beefed it up so much through the conventional means. A lot of drones are now moving in this region. They've been using a lot of air vectors, both air vectors and, APCs. They've deployed a lot of weapons to just make sure that they are protecting the civilians that are taking things through this route. And remember, people continue to travel in this road. So my thing is, I think the citizens of, because if the situation is so desperate and like that, civilians will not be able to move freely in this location. So it makes me ask the question, what is going on? Is it that the Western media are just trying to look for an opportunity to inflame their own things? Because you have to understand, the Western media are equally working hand in hand with these terrorists. Let me tell you something. When I say, I know a lot of you must have noticed this statement. When I say terrorist sources, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, the sources that have always brought out, you know, a direct assault of these terrorists, anything the terrorist does, they are being posted by Western broadcasters. You know, you have Brandt, you have Charlie Webb. These guys are Westerners. So you are not in the Sahel. RFI is not in Sahel. France 24 is not in Sahel. TV Monday and all this other, you know, Western propaganda media, they are not in the Sahel. But the question is, why are they getting a precise information about the terrorism situation going on in the Sahel? It's a big question that I've been trying to wrap my head around. Africans don't even have, you know, they don't have a clear detail of what the terrorists are doing. It's as if whenever the terrorists does these things, they make the clip up and they send it to these people to broadcast to the social media. So it further builds the case that this is a Western war. This is a Western war that has been waged against the Sahel. If you don't understand this yet, my goodness, I don't know what else anybody can explain to you. And if you are still trying to argue against the fact that this is not like terrorism in Africa, this is not an Africa identity, but a new identity, a new sort of warfare that the West is trying to use as a tool to suppress the African independence. If you don't understand that that's what's going on, that this is a war that has been waged against the Sahel states for their defiance, right? For their say that, look, we want to actually be independent and we want to handle our affairs on our own. If you don't know that that's what is going on, then I don't think you can understand anything again. Because what I think is this, right? You should ask yourself a question. What would be the point in having any Western person, right, military base or whatsoever? What would be the premise around them being still being in Africa, if not for the terrorism? So if not for chaos, terrorism, because any minor internal conflict could actually be handled by the military of the country. So you ask your question, why do you still have foreigners here? It's not for any type of reason. It's because of the terrorism. So you have to look at the terrorism as a whole. That's why the terrorism why did it start all of a sudden? Because they know that there is nothing else they have to offer Africa. So they have to build up a problem so that they can tell you that they are the ones that is capable of providing the solution to the problem that they created by themselves. It's like the way they manufacture viruses and they try to make vaccines, and they know that a lot of people will pay money to, you know, it's just the same thing. They use both biological warfare. Terrorism is also another conventional means that they use in trying to suppress people. Color revolution here and there. But ladies and gentlemen, what do you think about this? So again, in Burkina Faso has graduated 59,179 persons in the first phase of the patriotic immersion program. Ladies and gentlemen, when I look at this youths of Burkina Faso and the direction they are turning towards, number one, this youths look so beautiful. I never even knew that the people of Burkina Faso are this beautiful. I mean, facially, you all are sweet. I'm being honest with you. The people of Burkina Faso are some of the most beautiful I've seen in Africa. Take that from me as a compliment. And I'm being factual about it. I'm not even sugarcoating. But the thing is, I give it to Burkina Faso when it comes to honesty, when it comes to integrity. The youth of Burkina Faso, the big question is, who are these people in Burkina Faso? Who are they? Because when I look at the realities in Nigeria as a whole, me, I'm a Nigerian, right? But the realities is not the same. When you look at the realities of the Nigerian youth, oh my God, they are still living in another, Nigerians are still living in another cloud. Let's be honest. Let's call it spade a spade. Nigerians are still doing the unthinkable. Nigerians are still competing between Ghana Jollof and some. And if you look at the terrorism situation in Nigeria, so look at this patriotic immersion program that is going on in Burkina Faso. Look, they are setting up the stage. They are setting up the stage for the future. A future, look, a future with so much mental and physical defense that no type of espionage will be possible. Look, I don't even think espionage can be possible in Burkina Faso in the next 25 to 30 years. Burkina Faso is building in the right direction. And according to even what I'm hearing now, that they will now be integrating a compulsory military program into the school affair. Bruh, we need this in Nigeria, but even though it happens, it's still going to be infiltrated with a lot of Western ideologies. I'm telling you, Burkina Faso is moving in the right direction. And I take my hat off to you guys. You guys are doing great. But in Nigeria, what do you have? You have the government doing a peace talk in Katsina State to bandits.
Wace matsala ta tara mu? Matsala kashe-kashe, ɗaukar dukiya, ga yanan dai ba sai an ce wani abu, kowa dai ya san abin da ke. To sannan ni tambaya ta anan, din Najeriya, duk inda ake magana ana magana bahilla ce dan ta'adda ne barawo. Ai akan magana dai ake kenan. To da Allah tambaya ta farko, a ware man kabilar da ba barayi a cikinta. Duk duniya a ware man ita, kabilar da ba barawo a cikinta a ware man ita.
Let's not call these people bandits. What's the meaning of bandits? Terrorists. That is the name. Look at the guy. He's on national TV, granting interview with a microphone. Look at the situation in Katsina State. Look at how he came. If you look at his chest, he had a lot of armor. He's ready to fire. And according to what we heard, a popular cleric that was even rejected recently from entering Saudi Arabia, in the name Sheikh Gumi, he is saying that the Nigerian government should not even infuriate the bandits. If not, the peace talk will be they will break the peace talk. Is Nigeria a country? No. Is northern Nigeria a country? Is it a part of Nigeria? To be honest, if you ask me that what should Nigeria be looking at, I don't think Nigeria should be looking at a situation of election or something. I think Nigeria should be looking at, see, this is not referendum, this is not regional government or something. Nigeria should be looking at separating the northern Nigeria. There should be a sort of what is happening in Korea Republic, where you have North Korea, and yes, I think North Nigeria, I think they will be able to handle their issue by themselves. When they are faced with the reality that, okay, nobody is with us again, now the same terrorists we created by ourselves, because you have a lot of their politicians and elites that are actually fueling this radical, you know, behavior and all of that. So I think if they separate these people from the rest of Nigeria, which I think are very, very civilized, I do believe that, you know, the North needs to really, really go. Because what is this? And their clerics are backing them up. You can see the video we posted the other time where you saw the civilians and the bandits they were making, you know.
Kuna ɗaya daga cikin mutanen da muka samu zaman lafiya a cikin karamar hukumar Yankara. Karamar hukumar Yankara. Wani hoto ne wani a
cikin. They were in peace with themselves. So I think this is just the identity of these people. No type of education. Look, everybody is moving at a very fast pace. Everybody is trying to meet up with the lost time. So we don't have the time to now say we want to start educating the northern. No, there should be a northern Nigeria. They have a lot of gold in Zamfara. They have enough resources. They said they even recently found petroleum. They found fossil fuel in their region. So it's better. I think they want to do grazing. They want to be nomads. They can do it. I think the southern Nigeria should let us be. Nigeria should just be. It should not be the next election. I think we should start thinking towards like the northern Nigerian being on their own, having their own president. If they want to have the whole place as an Islamic caliphate, God bless them. Because I'm tired of seeing all this. So let's go to the next information, right? So Bamako, you know, they've now created something. You know, we saw the Nigerian representatives talking about creating the new Sahelian criminal court. This is coming after the complacency of the ICC, the International Criminal Court of Justice, you know, their complacency in handling the Algeria situation, even telling lies that the case was not brought before them and all of that. So, according to what we heard, they said there will be complaints against Paris and Ukraine for its support of terrorism in the Sahel. And actually, that's the truth, right? The national prosecution against complicit media like ARFI, France 24, Radio Monday. Now, what I think about this media that are propagating doom, I think it is not about the name itself, right? I don't know if you guys are with me. I don't think it is about RFI or radio or no. I think it's about the individuals within us as citizens that are still propagating this whole negative, you know, image. And I will tell everybody, there is problem also in the West. They have a lot of problems to deal with. There are problems in the United States. The gun violence in the United States is undisputed. I think the United States is the #1 on the planet that has that issue. But they make the Sahel, they make it look as if Africa is facing something even worse. So, in my own opinion, I think we as citizens too, we also have the obligation to make sure that when we see someone that is equally spreading doom, what I do to these people is that I report and block them immediately. I don't have the time to allow somebody to start penetrating my mental with a lot of message of doom, right? And that is what a lot of Africans like. But we need to decolonize ourselves from this perspective. That's what I think. So, apart from that, there is an information we've received that people are now making a statement that the reason why the CIA thinks they can help the Sahel fight against terrorism with a lot of intelligence sharing is because a lot of these terrorists are seen to have been using Starlink. They put it on vehicles. They do a lot of things. Starlink has been their means of communicating. So the question is, how did they get the Starlinks? Where did they buy from? Is it that easy for people to buy? I don't know. Because I don't use Starlink either. But the thing is, if they are using Starlink, does the US government has access to the information of whoever is using Starlink? Or is there a way that they are able to intercept whatever message or whatever information the terrorists are passing with themselves. Now, because they have access to the Starlink of the terrorists, does it mean they know the location? Does it mean they have a way of sabotaging their logistics? Ladies and gentlemen, you know, this is just the question I want to ask from my audience. Some of you that live in the United States, or some of you that have good intelligence or intelligence knowledge about how the terrorists, how they operate. And there is one other big question that's, okay, if we change currency, would it stop the terrorists? Would it be a very, very effective way of stopping terrorism? You know, it's still the same currency that everybody spends. So would a change of that currency be able to stop terrorism? You know, it's a really, really big question that we need to ask. A lot of people have been talking about changing of currency. You know, we have to understand that these terrorists too are still, some of them are still like you know, in the bush there's something else, but they still come back to the community. They still go to mosque. Some of them still go to the bank. So it's a big question. How are they going to be able to control this financial system to make sure that, you know, they will make it impossible for the terrorists to actually use the currency to buy, you know, a ton of equipment and all of that? I don't know, but I think it will be effective to a certain extent. But how are they going to be able to work their way around that? It's actually a very, very good technique to combating terrorism, but we will have to see how it goes until then. But it's actually something beautiful. But is it going to be a long-term solution to it, or will it just be a sort of potential solution to the terrorism issue? Now, lastly, I've been looking at the routes through which this terrorist attack. I've been looking at how the terrorists operate in the Sahel, and I came up with something, right? I don't know if I'm right. I don't know if I'm wrong. I know that everybody talk about green energy, green whatever, afforestation. But I'm thinking deforestation could actually be a big solution to the problem. Like demolishing trees and like, what do you guys think? Do you think deforestation could be an effective way? Because if you look at most of these terrorists, they stay in the bush and they ambush. Because if you look at when the tankers were actually ambushed, they came from the bush, right? So I feel like, could exterminating the forest life, could it help? You know, after defeating the terrorists, you can now afforestate. You know, because I'm looking at every possibility here. But ladies and gentlemen, you can drop your opinion with us on what you think about, you know, probably deforesting, if it's going to be a very, very good way of combating terrorism. For now, I'm not talking about deforesting for a long time. I'm just talking about for the meantime. And we have to understand the AES forces continue to delete a lot of terrorists in so many skirmish. But a lot of people have been asking a lot of questions that how do they recruit? If you look at the population of the Sahel, they are less than 25 million. Yes. Mali is less than 25 million. Burkina Faso is less than 25 million. Niger is even lesser than, I think, 22 point something million. And if you look at the territorial mass, I think for Mali and Niger is very, very big. So a lot of people have been asking, where do they get this recruitment from? Let me tell you something. In my own opinion, what I think northern Nigeria is a very, very big, you know, breeding site for this element. I'm not going to lie to you. Go and look at where Katsina is. This same state where the terrorists are having peace talk and all of that. I think it's at the border of Nigeria and Niger and stuff like that. You have Nigeria tipping the scale of, to me, I think Nigeria should be beyond 370 million people. More, and where you have this population is majorly in the north, right? You have more than half of that population in the north. More than half. And there is poverty, there is no job. The only thing they understand in the north, majority of them, is religion. So it's a question of without religion, without job, without food, and they continue to practice this thing. And a lot of them, you know, they have this radical ideology. Any small thing, you know, they are ready to go. You know, we have a situation where a friend of ours that happens to be a copper that went to serve in the north, She was doing her youth service, and she wanted to buy something from somebody, and the person said, in the name of Allah, please help me buy it. And the lady was like, no, take Allah out of the conversation. This has nothing to do with Allah. I cannot buy it for that price. And the next thing you see, she said a lot of boys started gathering with weapons, and some people already started throwing stone. That it was actually some elderly people that actually de-escalated the situation. They said she was blaspheming, that it was a very, very tense situation right there. So it has a lot to do with the mentality of these people. So in my own opinion, I think Nigeria also has a lot of job to do in this combating terrorism situation. And I think, a lot of people want Africa to unite, but for me, in West Africa, the borders of northern Nigeria needs to be extremely monitored, fortified, because I'm telling you, even if you destroy the old terrorists in the Sahel, they will continue to migrate from these regions. And Nigerians just keep leaving Nigeria. It's not in the southern Nigeria alone. It's not in the eastern or in the western Nigeria. A lot of northern Nigeria, these guys that are poor, where do you think they will go to? Because the Nigerians continue to leave Nigeria, right? They don't want to stay in Nigeria because of the different situation, economic insecurity, and a lot of things like that. So where do you think the poor northern Nigerians, where do you think they're going to go to? The Sahel is an opportunity for them. You get weapons, you get paid, you take your taxes from people, you are oppressing and all of that. So I think this is a deep conversation, and I think the Nigerian government needs to do a lot. I mean, a lot. It is not enough. Holding peace talk with bandits, ladies and gentlemen, I think the Sahel just need to fortify their borders. Nathalie Yam, the AES minister, has actually said this before. And I think what she said is actually very beneficial. If the Sahelian states can, fortify their territorial, difference, they should create a deterrence around that Nigerian border. There should be thousands to millions of landmines planted there, so that if anybody just go through that route, and not go through the official route, the negotiation should be very, very easy. This is my opinion. You can give us your opinion in the comment section below. It's your boy 72 Andre signing out. Enough said. But before I go, tomorrow we have news about counter-terrorism that we will try to bring to you people. It is going on right now. A lot of terrorists are falling today, but we want to gather the entire information before we bring it to you guys tomorrow. But surely we will not disappoint. Ladies and gentlemen, signing out. Enough said. Much respect and much love. I see you when next I see you.